Hey you, yeah you, I know what you've done. You've put your sim in the pool before and then walled it off, haven't you? Don't lie, we've all done it. You probably did it so you could seduce the Grim Reaper just to see what it was like. You sick individual. Nah, I'm just playing. The Sims, the most popular and iconic life simulation game series to date. If you're watching this video, you've probably played The Sims. Maybe, like me, you grew up on The Sims 3 or 2, simulating your little families or characters and helping them progress through careers, schools, watching them be born and grow old and adopt their first pets and, well, live life. I've been playing The Sims pretty much as long as I've been playing video games, and I've watched as EA has continued to slowly but surely chip away at the quality and integrity of this series. And it's actually pretty sad, because The Sims has what has to be one of the most loyal and dedicated fan bases of any game series. And I think EA knows that, which is why they continue to take full advantage of it. Now I'm in a unique position to critique this game series and say what a lot of popular Sims players and YouTubers won't, because I don't make a living playing it. I'm just a nobody online who wants a better product. So today I'm going to outline exactly why the Sims series has declined and what that might mean for its future. Let's start at the beginning. The original Sims game released in February of 2000 at a standard price point of $50 and was a commercial success. The game had many of the most well-known features of the series today, laying the foundation for what its spirit would eventually be formed out of. Cheat codes, needs, the animations, relationships, houses, unfortunate deaths, the fictional Simlish language, and iconic families like the Goths. Within a short amount of time, it became the best-selling PC game of all time. Expansion packs began to be released with a price point of $20 to $25 a pack. They sold like hotcakes and were jam-packed with features. This formula continued with great success and was received incredibly well until October of 2003 when the last expansion, Make and Magic, was released. At this point, the future looked bright, and a year later in September of 2004 came The Sims 2 for another $50. This, in many people's minds, is truly in a lot of ways where the series begins, and admittedly it's where my gameplay experience and knowledge of the game's mechanics also begins. The Sims 2 came with all the features of the original Sims and more, improving upon it in crucial areas, and even adding some DLC features from The Sims 1 into the base game, such as having kids, something that had previously been added in Live Enlarged expansion for The Sims 1. Keep that in mind. At this point in time, features from the older game were being added to the new release that had previously been locked behind expansions. Plus, the base game was also a step up in virtually every way, and crucially included all the content of the previous game and more. The Sims 2 continued to see the release of innovative expansion packs up until August of 2008, when Apartment Life rounded off the last of those. The expansions at this time were somewhere around $20 to $25. In June of 2009, The Sims 3 came out. Now, The Sims 3 is the game that I grew up playing, and I own all the expansions for this one. In my opinion, it's where the series has peaked. We got a full open world with several maps alongside 11 expansions, all of which added tons of content and new gameplay styles, maps, and other exciting things. The Sims 3 added ideas that we hadn't seen yet, now staples of the franchise like Supernatural, Generations, World Adventures, and my personal favorite, Into the Future. All of these DLC cost $20 a piece when they came out, and the game itself was around the same price point of its predecessor. Now you might be wondering, why the emphasis on price? I'm constantly mentioning the price of the expansion packs in the base game. Well, here's why. Because The Sims 4 released in September of 2014 for $60. Okay, you say, what's the big deal? Inflation is a thing, everything gets more expensive over time. Well, that's true, but we weren't just paying more for a better product, like you'd expect to be the case. No, when The Sims 4 came out, it was little more than an empty shell, a barren husk. It was a template for selling DLC. Upon release, The Sims 4 did something unprecedented for the series. It actually regressed from its predecessors, and it did it in many different ways. When The Sims 4 came out, the game was missing over 89 features that had been in The Sims 3, according to a website which had been following its development news, including some major ones, like several basic careers, no more open world, no terrain tools coupled with an entirely flat world, no pools, no story progression, the entire toddler stage gone, a missing Mac version of the game, and a completely watered down Create-a-Sim mode with some new graphics and a shaping system to distract you from that fact. You get fewer and less interesting traits now, there's no astrological signs or favorite music and food. Already, you'd be pretty hard pressed to find a way to defend all this. That's because it's indefensible. On release, EA showed us it didn't care about giving us a fun game, something which was an improvement upon its predecessor, or about being ambitious and creating the next best thing, the kind of mindset that popularized the franchise in the first place. No, that was no longer a concern. Now it was all about the money. And at the end of the day, the video game industry is just that, an industry. A company exists to make money. I get that. But what I don't understand is why when making a good video game and making a ton of money aren't mutually exclusive, EA still goes on to demonstrate repeatedly that it just does not care. It will shovel you garbage and you will pay for it, whether you like it or not. Expansion packs began to churn out for The Sims 4, with the first being Get to Work in February of 2015 at a price point of $40. Yeah, you heard that right. They were priced and are still priced on average at twice as much as they'd been up until that point. Now, admittedly, I'm not a mathematician or an economist, but I'm pretty sure inflation didn't rise 100% between the last Sims 3 expansion and the first Sims 4 expansion, or even from the release of the original Sims all the way up to today. Well, were they at least an improvement on the previous expansions, you might ask? Did we get the content we'd been missing out on release in short order? No. And the game didn't even receive some of the most important and relevant features until several years after its release. Not only that, but The Sims 4 has never gotten some of the expansions The Sims 3 got, all the way up until a whopping 9 years after its release when Horse Ranch came out in 2023. Now, while I've seen a lot of people talk about the outrageous amount of DLC and blatant price gouging of The Sims 4 content, what I haven't seen mentioned nearly as much is the fact that EA has openly and shamelessly part and parceled content to be sold at extortionate markups. What do I mean by this? Well, let's use the most upsetting and egregious example. The Sims 3 Pets was an expansion pack which released in October of 2011, and for $20 you got, according to the wiki, 46 cat breeds, 72 big dog breeds, 46 small dog breeds, and 30 horse breeds, plus unicorns. 3 adoption methods, control over pets, pets having their own ambitions and rewards, and skills. You got small pets like hamsters, horse riding, and several new traits, a new map, shopping list, cooking options, and an ice cream truck? It's almost like at this time the developers were just having fun, throwing extra things in there if they could during the development cycle. In comparison, for double the price, The Sims 4 cats and dogs had a laughably smaller amount of breeds. No horses, no small pets, no control over animals, and no animal ambitions. There were not any extras, there were less traits, less skills, and a map less than half the size of its predecessor. Obviously also not open world. Not only that, but for all the content that you'd have got in The Sims 3 Pets, you would have to purchase The Sims 4 Cats and Dogs, Horse Ranch, and My First Pet stuff, and even then you'd be missing some things. So let's get that straight. You pay over triple the price of pets and you get less content, which is also of a lower quality. In what world is this acceptable? What other community would allow itself to be extorted like this? The fact that EA gets away with this should be a crime. I think Bold Technology put it best in his video on this topic when he said, "This is grotesque." It is absolutely grotesque. This company is utterly and unashamedly sapping the fun and enjoyment out of this iconic franchise to satisfy its shareholders. You, as a player, are being completely shafted here because your hobby and enjoyment is not even a concern, let alone a priority for this organization. How much more evident can they make this than just making the game free, showing it's clearly not serving any purpose but to be a platform for selling more DLC? Oh wait, they've already done that. The example of pets being cut up into 2 expansions and a stuff pack is just one of many. All in all, if you wanted to buy everything out for The Sims 4 today, you would have to shell out over $1,200. Is this a fucking joke? Paradox Interactive, a company which is ceaselessly lambasted by its fans for its DLC policy, has its most expensive title at less than half of that, and with the subscription option to boot, costing only $5 a month for access to everything. If you had bought The Sims 4 on release in addition to every single DLC on release, you'd effectively be paying over twice that much every month, and that's the best case scenario. The difference here is you can't cancel that subscription, and sometimes the content doesn't even work, nor is it ever fixed. I'm looking at you, Wedding Stories. I've seen people online trying to justify this by saying things like, well, this comes out to X amount of dollars per hour, much cheaper than other forms of entertainment. If you're one of those people and you're watching this, you are missing the point. Not only are you missing the point, but you're actively advocating for a system that does not benefit you at all. It doesn't benefit anyone who plays this game. The point is that you are paying more for less. You are being given content over a longer period of time, which is lower in quality and scope, and yet you're still paying more. Double, to be exact, in many cases. You're being scammed. Not only that, but you're also paying into a system which has zero intention of ever improving and giving you a better product, only in pretending to do so. It is okay to demand better. Why can EA continue to do this? Why have we not been given another option? Well, it's now been almost 10 years since the release of The Sims 4, while all the other games had only a 5-year gap at most between releases. We're still being fed garbage expansions, and there's even unconfirmed rumors that the next entry of the series will be live service and free to play on release. Ooh, you know what? I sincerely hope that's the case, because it may finally be the nail in the coffin for the Sims series. It may finally be the wake-up call that many Simmers need to say enough is enough. Sims fans have shown time and time again they'll put up with this treatment and sad excuse of a company. They just keep coming back. I'm even guilty of this at times. But do you know why? Because what EA really needs is a competitor. If you want to play a life simulation game in 2024, what are your options? There are none. It's just The Sims. There's literally no other game which attempts to do what it does even remotely. And at the end of the day, that's where EA thrives, on getting monopolies in certain subgenres of video games. It's held the monopoly on football and soccer simulation games for over 2 decades due almost solely to licensing. It held a monopoly on city simulation games until City Skylines seized that spot, due simply to a total lack of competition, and it still to this day has a monopoly on life simulation games because there's just not a Sims competitor. With the release of upcoming games like Life by You or Paralyze, this is hopefully going to change. I personally wouldn't touch The Sims 4 with a 10-foot pole in this day and age, when you can play The Sims 3 and have an objectively superior experience for a third of the price. And that's before you even consider sales or other less advisable methods of acquiring the expansions. So on that note, I'd highly recommend for all of those of you like me who love The Sims but are disappointed in its trajectory and the current state of it, play The Sims 2 and 3. Show the better games some love and enjoy the wealth of mods and the strong communities they still have to offer. Why pay hundreds or even over $1,000 to be given this laughable excuse of an experience? Put your money where your mouth is and don't do it. Follow the development of other options and pray they turn out well. Here's fingers crossed that they don't disappoint. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.